Coach Dejan, hey, thanks for joining me today on this Coach to Coach interview season preview. Here we are. I will just say, as I told Coach Axtell, you are number 2 in the after my little hiatus that I took at the beginning until now. So you're the second guy I reached out to. It's like, hey, let's do this. Got a few more lined up. So you were a guarantee, you know, like I got to have you on. Because you're the guy I wish I could hate, but I can't. Because, you know, John Carroll. But, hey, here we are. But thank you. Do appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me. Like I keep telling you, I want to be what Alec Baldwin is to SNL for you on this show. I want to be the number one guest.
Totally. We can, you know what? And there's a trophy. There's a trophy for that. A jacket. Actually, isn't SNL the jacket? Yeah, totally.
That's right.
He'll give you the jacket. Hey, as I mentioned, just want to talk about the fall. And I'm just going to ask this because you mentioned it earlier. Just where are you at mentally for the fall season?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like it still hasn't hit me yet. You know, everything is still happening as if you were going back to the conference you've been in for the last 23 years of your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think a little bit in terms of like the scheduling and game times and your booking buses and things like that are starting to make it a little more real. But I don't know if it's fully hit me yet. But I can promise you, you know, like I've told you before, it's a reset button for us. You know, we're trying to reevaluate every portion of this program and use this time to have that natural break in terms of switching conferences. And I think it's been very healthy for us, especially in relation to like me working on my master's here. It's been a great time to kind of do all that at the same time, if you will. And with graduation happening a couple of weeks ago, I feel very clear-headed and ready to take on this next challenge because it's definitely going to be a massive challenge for sure.
Oh, yeah. Going from the fire to the frying pan, right? Or frying pan to the fire, or whatever that analogy is. So that's interesting. So you say you use this opportunity as a complete review of your program. I'll ask because I can. Like, what did you uncover? Is there anything interesting that you sort of in that review, analysis, whatever it was, like that you thought, well, that's interesting. I never sort of looked at it that way or thought about that?
Absolutely. I think the number one thing, and let me preface by saying, this sports leadership masters at John Carroll is a pretty special thing. I'm very privileged to be part of it and go through all that. But my professors were so cool about letting me apply the program to every project, every presentation, every paper. I was able to really dig very deep into what we do here and, you know, finish the requirements, you know, for class. And it was a way to really look at things a different way, like maybe not as a coach, more as a student, if you will. And the really big light bulb moment for me was when I started putting stuff pen to paper. I think we all as coaches, we have these ideas and we're used to saying certain things. We have a lot of conversations. Like it all kind of flows. You've done it for a very long time, so you know what you're talking about. But when you really put it down on paper and put it next to things and compare things and, hey, this is the next progression of this and that, you really look at it a little bit differently, even though it's managed a certain way in your head. When you're reading it on a document, it hits you a little bit different. So for me, as I started doing that, and once I uncovered that that's what was really helping my brain synapses, you know, like go a little bit, that's when I really dug deep into, okay, I'm going to start writing some stuff down here and really, you know, digging deep into that. And you can ask my wife, who is my official proofreader through my master's and certainly my coaching. You know, and my coaching staff that I would send these documents to. It was pretty cool. And I think as time went on, and I always, you know, was very invested in what I was doing, but I certainly became even more invested once I really felt it working. And like I said, I feel very clear-minded and prepared going into this conference switch.
Is that unique? Like, is that unique to this year for whatever you've been going through? Like, do you feel like in other years you were, I'll just say it this way, like you had a lot of noise in your head going into the season, or do you feel like, hey, I did this complete analysis, I feel like I'm burdened by a bunch of different things, and here we are, let's play?
I wouldn't. it's unique, but not in the way where I felt unprepared before. I feel like extra prepared this
Yeah.
year is probably the way to put it. And especially once I started looking at things in a little bit different of a lens again,
Hmm.
conversations rather,
Yeah.
or conversations and whatever versus like reading it and writing it
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I just feel like a different type of prepared. Um, One that would come with like a hard reset in terms
Yeah.
of like
Yeah.
what we're going through. So it's just a very time appropriate and
Hmm.
it feels right in terms of
Yeah.
everything going on.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I always said my thoughts are never complete until I write them down, because then you just sort of go down all these different side branches of your thoughts, and you're able to sort of make sense of it all. And I forever, for the longest time, was very much, it's in my head, it's in my head, it's in my head. But when I say, all right, I'm going to put this down on paper, what does that look like? It looks dramatically different ultimately when I'm done with that than, yeah. So I totally get where you're coming from. Just putting that stuff down on paper matters a lot. All right. So with that in mind, you're moving to the NCAC. Where do you think you are program wise, soccer wise, to compete? And I'm not expecting you to become dartboard material for anybody, so stay away from controversial subjects about the NCAC. My words of advice. But yeah, I'm just curious, like from a soccer perspective, how are you feeling? Where do you think that's yeah, how do you think?
Yeah. I I think we're a low man on the totem pole, if I'm being honest. And that's not me not taking
Wow.
the
Wow.
bait. Like,
Wow.
let's be honest. Anytime you come into a new situation at a high level like the NCAA has been, especially in the sport of men's soccer, you have to go figure it out. We've earned nothing. We've proven nothing. It doesn't matter what we've done in the OAC. It doesn't matter what we did in the PAC, prior to 1989 and all these years that the program's been around, 61 of them now, since our
Mm-hmm.
program began in 1964. We do not matter, and no one cares about all the trophies in this office that were won in a different conference. They care about the ones that are in their offices and their respective universities. So for me, and the message has been very loud and clear to my guys, like, we are nobody. Like, we have to come in and go make a name for ourselves, and that is not going to be easy because no one wants to give up what they've earned and what they've accomplished over the years in the NCAC. So the whole new kid on the block thing, it rings true for me. Like, we have to go earn everything we're going to do. We have to go learn lessons. Some will be easier, some will be harder, but I am by no means walking in there strutting around like I figured something out because I'm the new guy.
Yeah, but you're getting a master's degree. You should know all these things.
Hey, I can promise you, Travis Wall and Brandon Bianco, they've heard more about my master's degree the past 2 years, so they're already they've had enough of that.
Yeah, they're going to show you what to do with your master's degree,
That's
or at
right.
least they're going to try. That's good. That's awesome. I mean, what are your immediate concerns going into preseason? Is yeah, what? I'll just leave it at there. What?
Yeah, I just think we're going to be very young. We've
Mm-hmm.
graduated so many impact players the past 2 years, which really encompassed three graduating classes because of the extra year of COVID
Yeah.
eligibility. So we just have we have young talent and we have good players, but they are young and they are unexperienced and inexperienced, and they need to learn what it's like to be under the spotlight versus rather than the Robin to Batman versus Batman to Robin kind of thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that learning curve in terms of graduating that many older veteran players versus now so many young guys have to step up. Um, I, I don't want to label it as a concern. Like, I don't think it's possible to be, you
Yeah.
know, successful. I just think that's going to be the number one thing of like, hey, we need to learn how to win and learn how to
Yeah.
compete.
Yeah.
And when this kind of stuff happens, and then I think the other thing that we've talked about here is that yes, we've played a lot of these NCACs better part of decade,
Yeah.
15 years, very consistently, but we played them in September, not in October. And I think that's a
Yeah.
very big difference, right? So understanding
Yeah.
like, okay, we're going to go through our non-conference schedule like a normal year in September, but what does it look like when you're not playing Ohio Wesleyan on September 17th and you're not playing Denison on
Yeah.
the first weekend, or Kenya, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
DePaul, etc. So that's a very big learning curve as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. That is a great point because you're right. You're not going to be playing anybody in the NCAC in the early part of September. You're playing them dog days, right? October comes around, and yeah, into November. Like that's got to be when everybody's probably hitting on all cylinders, or at least
Sure.
ideally any team is hitting on all cylinders. So that is going to be that much more difficult. Do you? I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but it's like if you could wrap it up all in a bow, where you're going to be like, I ain't answering that question. But like, where would you see John Carroll at the end of the season? Like, where would you say, hey, I going all the things that you're going through? What this would be? This would I would consider this like a great start to our first year in the NCAC.
Sure. I'll answer that. I think, I can give you all the cliche, we want to get better every day and we want to be peaking. And that's all true. I don't think
Yeah.
any of us don't mean it when we say it, but like that's the cookie cutter easy answer.
Mhm.
I think, if you put me on the spot right now on whatever day in June we're at, if we're in the NCAC playoff, in October, early November, I'm going to be a pretty happy camper. Like getting ourselves
Yeah.
at the top part of the standings rather than the
Yeah.
middle or bottom, I think would be a massive accomplishment in year one, especially with this uphill battle we have to fight as being the new guy on the block, like I've
Yeah.
mentioned, and learning our way around. So yeah, I think we could finish in the top four. Sign me up. I'd be really happy with that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So this is one I was thinking about the other day. Is I'm assuming you watched all the video and you've done all that stuff. Is there? Do you notice a difference in the type of soccer that's played in the NCAC versus the OAC, or is it again? It's just soccer is soccer, and it's just a different jersey.
It's I think it's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and again, I'm not trying to say one style is better than the other. I think the manufacturing of the game in the NCAC is a little bit different than that of the OAC, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not, again, a knock
Yeah,
against
yeah,
anybody. I've argued, and again, anyone who knows me in the program, I've been telling people like we need to stop playing the way we've been playing all the time. Like we have to find different way. We can't just think we're going
yeah,
to be Man City every day and
yeah,
pass the ball 50 times and put it in the back of the net, right? So again, I'm not hating on it. I'm not complimenting it either. But I do think there is a little bit of a difference.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I always it's, and then I think they competing amongst themselves. There's a very I think there's a difference.
Sure.
I think there's probably a lot more focus on the game and how the ball moves than my sense is in the OEC. Again, not in a bad way. It's just I think it's a lot more methodical in my view. What's aside from the young, from a soccer perspective, is there anything that you just like that you're already thinking about, like we need to address as soon as we get into camp, like goal scoring or defensive posture or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, I've been, again, not saying this just because I've done the master's thing, but like the sports leadership, the mental side, the team building, that has been more important to me now than ever. And
Mm-hmm.
and I've been doing this a pretty long time. So for me, like I don't really care how many cones we put on the ground and what kind of drills that we do. Like we need to be a family off the field and on the field, and really get to know one another, and want to fight for one another on the field. That's going to be the most important part for me
Yeah.
going forward. And I can't reiterate enough, as someone going into year 24 between playing assistant coaching and head coaching, I just feel like it's so important for that kind of stuff to happen. You can go throughout whatever fancy formations and these set piece things, and but if you don't want to play for one another, that none of that
Yeah.
stuff matters.
No, no, no. It's funny you say that because as I mentioned to you earlier, I spoke with Coach Axtell from Cortland State, and that's one of the things. And maybe it's the age. It's like after a while, the X's and O's I don't find much in them, right? Like it's just sort of whatever, just a way. I'm much more interested on how do you get a team to play well together? How do you get them to sort of feel like they're on the field for each other? And what are they going to do for each other and the commitments that they make? And I find that to be so much more interesting, probably because it's so much more difficult, right? Like it's so hard to do it right. I'll just say that. Otherwise, you just have 11 guys or however many guys on a roster running around the field and it doesn't do anything. So,
Sure.
I'm curious about this too. Since has your recruiting changed? Not how you recruit, but like the types of players that you're getting in. Has there been a the type of players has that changed? That
A
have
little
been
bit.
interested in John Carroll. But, oh, now you're going into the NCAC. I'm totally on board.
Yeah, I just said this in a meeting recently here on campus because I was asked a question. I wasn't trying to just like volunteer like this random comment here, but for whatever reason, since we announced we were going to the NCAC, I don't think I've ever been asked more about our conference and our opponents this year than I would argue the past 5 years combined.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely been a very big difference, at least from the men's soccer perspective in the meetings. I sit in here in this office when recruits and their families show up at University Heights. That has been a big difference. Obviously, like anyone else, we're trying to go to the MLS next and ECNL events and things like that. I don't think that changes. I think we're all trying to
same
recruit.
pool, right? Yeah, same
Right.
pond, right? And like you're going to the same pond too.
But yeah, I've been asked that. It's been at first I kind of felt like it was like someone was telling them to ask me, and then I'm like, no, this is like actually they really want to know because it was such a random thing that was happening and over again. So apparently it does matter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one factor that you didn't contribute to is the outstanding success that All Things Division III Soccer has in raising awareness about such issues, and so. How much closer to having your own stadium are you?
That's a good question.
And there's a reason. There is a reason why I'm asking you that. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's something that's top of mind. I'll answer it that way.
Okay.
That doesn't mean we're any further or closer, but it's something that we are. That's on our radar more than ever. I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm. You need it. I'll just say that. So, the time you blew me off when I visited John Carroll and I did the Fields of Dreams, one of the two things. Like, how cool would it be to have a grass field right in the quad there where I played many years ago when you guys played on grass for a season or whatever. The second thing, so I realized how impersonal probably Don Shula's stadium, which is a wonderful stadium, don't get me wrong, felt when, playing soccer there. Like it just looked really far away, and it doesn't. And then the third thing I said, I always thought, like, it's like the one piece of the puzzle that I don't want to say you're missing, but you look at all the teams in the NCAC for the most part, and yeah, they all have some place to call their own, even if share lacrosse or whatever, but something a little bit more intimate for the game. And I think it would make a huge. I think it could have a huge impact on you.
I couldn't agree more. I would argue that our locker room was something that we've identified as something that we needed to upgrade in it as well. And fortunate for us, we will be moving into that next month.
Nice.
I'm sorry, later this month. I apologize. Yeah. So that was another thing that we definitely needed to address that we did. So we're really excited about getting in that new facility and all that comes with it. But you're going to have no arguments from me or any men's soccer alums about the first topic.
It's not a bad. Don't get me wrong. Don Shula is an amazing. Like it is. Sure. It's a real stadium. Like it's not like, hey, a bunch of metal, stands that were just put together. No, it's like it's a real deal. It's like it's a football stadium, you know what I mean? And I think it's time. I think I've been saying for a while. I mean, aside from the logical ones as to why not, they can't have their own stadium, right? Like if you're downtown, if you're NYU, I get your problems, right? Or you're in Chicago, I get your problems. But I think for the quality of program you are, I think it's almost like a sign of commitment at that point, right? Like, hey, we're committed to this soccer programs because they've delivered so much over the last 61 years, right? I think that's a legitimate case to make. And I think you guys definitely, if anyone, and I say the same thing about Mount Union, to be honest with you. Like, it's time to have their own place, but whatever. Sure. I'm on my soapbox. I got to stop that. You mentioned leadership, and I totally appreciate that. But for your preseason, how do you think that's going to shape up for you and what you do with the team?
Yeah, I think that you have to be very purposeful with your planning, both on the field and off the field. Like, you need to use that time wisely. And ironically, the older I get, I'm less concerned about what we're doing on the field rather than off it, if I'm being honest. And don't get me wrong, like, we need to recover and get rest and take naps and all that kind of stuff. But, these intentional hangouts, these intentional team bonding things that we do are things that I work on all year. I write ideas down and meet with the staff and other members of campus for things that we're trying to make work or not work. So that part, honestly, is my main focus. We really won't talk about soccer stuff, I would argue, in the week or two before, that we're actually getting on the field. So all this other planning that we're doing is really the leadership aspect and the team bonding aspect and all the above.
Yeah. Well, that'll have the longest impact, right? Like, sure. I have to say, that has the longest impact. All right, I asked this earlier of Coach Axtell. I'm going to ask you, what is the one team that we should be looking at that we're not, that you think is interesting or something's going on? This is like the unprepped part of the interview. Like, you can't prep for this one.
I'm probably going to say DePaul.
Really?
Yeah, I think that Steve's doing an unbelievable job there. Obviously, they had a great season last year, but I don't know. The more I watch them and the more I think there's a lot of usual suspects that you expect a lot from. But I think DePaul is, and maybe they're not sneaking up on people. Maybe I'm out of context of answering the question, but I don't think they get enough credit for what they've done and what they're about to do. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. No, that's fair. And I could see that. I noticed a difference in them this past year. Like, just, you see those cues. You're like, okay, something's happening here. You're moving in a direction that's in the right direction, I think, from a soccer perspective. All right. The $1 million question now. Who do you think will win the national championship?
Man, that I couldn't even begin to. Well, I'll tell you this. Getting to go to my first Final Four this past year as part of the men's soccer committee and D3 NCAA whatever, eye opener. I don't care what you watch on TV or what you think you've seen on live streams, whatever. Until you're there and you feel it, and you're around programs of that caliber, it's very hard to understand, what goes into all that. And I was really lucky to be with Justin and Amherst in terms of their team manager, representative, whatever, so I was there firsthand with those guys for 72 hours straight. And, what a special group. And obviously Justin and his staff, they clearly know what they're doing in terms of winning. But let me tell you, like, it takes so much to win that thing, outside of talent and prep. And I mean, the luck part of it, everything. I think this is such a unique year as well that so many teams are losing all these fifth-year seniors. This
Yeah,
the last
yeah.
year, you know. I think a lot of teams are going to be young, like just like us. You know, I think a lot
Hmm.
of teams will be on the younger side. So if there's any year where, I mean, it's always unpredictable. I feel like this might be the most unpredictable year ever. You know,
Hmm.
giving all of those circumstances, especially with that extra COVID eligibility thing going away. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah. That's a good point. I didn't even think about it. There is no more,
Right.
right? Like we're all flushed out. The system's all flushed out for those 50 years and whatnot. That's interesting. I forgot that you were the team whatever for Amherst. I am just curious comparing John Carroll, what you have built, to what you see in Amherst and maybe even Connecticut College. And aside from the soccer, right? Because I thought that both teams are just outstanding soccer programs. Like you can't, like, was there some? Were you just kind of like, man, I got to do this at John Carroll? As like, look at the difference between the two is this X factor, and I'm going to try to capture that X factor. Was there anything like that you saw?
Yeah, I for sure. I think that again, until you see it and feel it, you don't know.
Yeah,
But the buy-in of those four teams that are there
yeah,
is like you think you have buy-in in your program and what you're doing, and
yeah,
and and maybe some do, but like, and granted, yes, they're all walking into the Final Four, so that
yeah.
they're thinking and feeling a little bit different. But those players and their coaches and support staff, the buy-in and the amount of passion and camaraderie was really cool to witness firsthand. And I don't even know if they knew. It was more like as like the outside looking in and kind
Yeah.
of. And by the way, I figured I was the team liaison. That was the right
That's
word.
it. Yeah,
Uh, um, but like just watching that, I was like, wow! Like these
yeah,
guys, like they believe in each other. They believe in what's going on. Like they're ready to go give it all to. And I know you and I've talked about this 100 times in our interviews, but it made me feel like when we played.
yeah,
You know, like it
yeah,
was that old school like.
yeah. No,
Oh, that wall, I'll run
yeah,
through it, no
yeah. I'll
problem.
run through it for you. If you're telling me to do that, I'll go do it. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. That's interesting. You don't catch it. That you don't. You're right. You. That's not something you would capture watching on a stream. You have to sort of like be in it and to
Right.
see that
It's
level of
super
commitment.
impressive.
Yeah, yeah,
Super
yeah,
impressive.
yeah. And you're right. Maybe that is the missing piece of the puzzle for teams, right? Like I'm always looking for what is that thing? What is that thing that takes the team to the next? Maybe that is it. It's like I will put my head through that brick wall if that's what you're telling me it's going to get us the game. Maybe that's it. Which would, you know, if that's the case, I'm dusting off my old copas, man. Like I'm coming back. I'm
That's
coming
it.
back. That's impressive. That is really. What else was your experience like while you were there? I'm just curious. That like how was that?
It, it's like the hairs on my arm are standing up. It's just
Yeah,
cool. Like
yeah, yeah.
you're at the pinnacle of your industry, right?
Craft. Yeah,
You get to watch these guys go to work, and the games are competitive, and the fans and the venue, like literally, like you looked over the one goal and the spheres in the background, like what an unbelievable backdrop, Las Vegas, right?
yeah,
But no, it was just a really, really cool experience. I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of that, and I was really happy I got to be one of the team liaisons. So I
yeah.
was in that capacity, in terms of responsibility, but very eye opening in a positive way, and
Mm-hmm.
um, certainly, anytime people have the opportunity to be part of these committees with the NCAA, I always advise them to do it because I really think you can learn a lot and
Mm-hmm.
help.
Yeah, yeah,
I felt like I had a purpose that weekend. I was able to help,
yeah,
teams do what they were doing and help out with the NCAA. It was a really
yeah,
cool experience.
yeah. Well, I see you weren't totally bought in because you're not wearing any Amherst gear. You're not wearing my.
I'm not sure how well that would go over
Yeah,
here.
yeah, that would not be well received. I can tell you that right now. That would not.
That's
That
right.
would just be like even a tough one too. Like, man, I want to hate you, but I can't. But now you got that on. Oh my god. All right, Coach. This was fantastic. I do appreciate you taking the time. I wish you all the best as always. I'll be following, and we'll definitely reconnect. Hopefully, if I ever get back out to Cleveland, you will have the time to say hello, and we can go have a cup of coffee.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
By the way, I'm serious. That the quad area would be a great place for, like, that would be a great place to play. That reminds me of Connecticut College of all things, because they have the quad and they have a field on one end. Would be huge. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying, like, like, if you're getting on this, get on it. Yeah. So anyhow, thank you very much. Wish you all the best. Wish your men all the best and all the success. And we'll be in touch.
Thank you. I appreciate it as always.
Yep.